What is up, New York Giants fans? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Tommy's Takes. I'm your host, Tommy G. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. And for that, thank you. Please like, subscribe, turn notifications on. As always, you can check me out on Twitter at TommyG105. I'll be having all the hottest Giants takes and content all season long. As always, your love and support is much appreciated. Thank you. We're going to get right into it. Today's a special episode of Tommy's Takes. We're going to do our first ever mailbag. I handpicked some questions from our viewers and our subscribers. We got some really good questions mixed in there. I got some answers for some of them. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to them all, but I try to get to as many as possible. We're going to get to that in a second. First, we're going to do a little bit of current state of where the Giants are at. We did have some breaking news. Blake Martinez was cut earlier today, which was a little bit of a shocker to a lot of us. Obviously, Blake's deal was restructured a few months ago. The time to cut him essentially would have been then. You would have saved, I believe, $2.3 million. But nonetheless, Joe Schoen cut him. He missed practice yesterday. This word came out there was a mutual agreement between Blake and the Giants, and this was, 50-50. I'm not sure. There's really not much. So, when you look at it, not a lot of cap savings between him and the next guy up. So it doesn't seem like a money thing. Scheme fit wise, maybe. I don't think he was the best scheme fit for Wink's defense, unfortunately, especially coming off an ACL injury. But it is tough to lose an experienced linebacker like that. He's been in the league a long time. 100-tackle guy. Now you have a linebacker core in the New York Giants of a couple young guys and an undrafted free agent in Austin Calitro, which shout out to Austin Calitro, Danbury's finest. This is his 10th NFL team, and he made the team with the Giants. Made a bunch of plays in the preseason. Had the pick six in the last game, which was awesome. But, you're going into Tennessee versus Derrick Henry, and you have a bunch of young kids and essentially a journeyman. So it was definitely an intriguing decision. One that, I tend to think maybe some more information will come out as we get further along here. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense on paper, because if you would have cut him back in March, you would have saved a couple million, but you restructured. You obviously said at that point we want to keep him even with the scheme. So I'm not sure if maybe some issues with Blake's knee, maybe just the scheme wasn't right for both sides. But it leaves the Giants very barren at linebacker. Most Giants fans going into the season are saying our secondary. Well, you got to put linebacker up there now, because Blake really held that unit together, even though he had the ACL last season. He really was the veteran presence there, and he really was the only proven player on that linebacking core. So that's going to be a tough loss. Who starts, who plays, you got a couple guys in there. I really like McFadden, the rookie, played very well in the preseason. He's a thumper. He could hit. He could shoot the gap. I think he's going to see some reps. Obviously, Tate Crowder coming back from last year. He's seen meaningful reps last year, started. I think he's going to get some meaningful reps. Austin Calitro, who I mentioned, he played well in the preseason. I think it's going to be a man by committee, and it's going to be tough because the secondary is young. The secondary is thin. So now you got basically, your back 7-8 is a question mark, other than, Xavier McKinney. We'll leave him out, obviously, great player. So interesting move there. Giants also finalized their 53-man roster this week. You also had some interesting moves. You had, I would probably say the most interesting was cutting Alex Bachman. Led the NFL preseason in catches with 21. Had a couple touchdowns. Looked really good out there. Really good connection with Webb. Just got cut. Didn't make the practice squad. We'll see what happens if he makes his way back to the Giants. But that was a tough one. Giants still kept 7 receivers and still decided not to keep Bachman. So obviously he got caught up in a little bit of the numbers game. But the guy's talented. So we'll see what happens. Obviously this Giants receiving core has dealt with injuries for a while now, and inconsistency. So that was an interesting cut. You also had Quincy Roche that was cut. I've always been a big fan of Roche. When we picked him up on waivers from the Steelers last year, he had the game-winning sack forced fumble against the Raiders, which was awesome. But obviously, I think with him wasn't a scheme fit. He just wasn't what Wink was looking for. Talent-wise, he has the talent. I think he was a much better fit in Patrick Graham's defense. But still, good player and, not making the team. So that was a tough one. And if you really look at those two cuts, the players that they kept instead, At wide receiver, the Giants kept Darius Slayton, which was an interesting move. Slayton has struggled. I've been vocal about it on Tommy's takes here. Has struggled with drops, has struggled with consistency, has had some injuries also. But as for now, he's on the 53-man roster. Joe Shane said he's still open to trades, so who knows? And as far as Roche, Giants kept O'Shane Zimenez, who has been very, we'll say, inconsistent in his career with the Giants, struggling getting the quarterback, struggling to stay on the field. So some interesting moves with the 53-man. I think it shows that this GM and this coaching staff is going to stay pure to the scheme fit. Even if another guy might be slightly more talented, it's made some more plays than player A, let's call it. If player A is the scheme fit, he's the one they're rolling with. So that was interesting to see. Picked up Tony Jefferson, safety from the Ravens. I thought that was an excellent pickup, honestly. Some people were criticizing it because he's 30 years old. Listen, 61 career starts. He played 4 seasons under Wink Martindale. Comfortable at Wink, comfortable with the system. The guy could play. I think he had like 9 tackles in one half in this preseason, so he could still play. And when you have a secondary that has a bunch of young guys and unprovens, and you could put a Tony Jefferson back there, even if he doesn't get a ton of reps, if he could just help with communication, if he could help with lining guys up back there, that's a huge boost. So I was a big fan of that signing. I thought that was a big one. For the most part, that the 53-man is set. You may see some movement. Week 1 is right around the corner. A couple players going to IR. You had Ellerson Smith going to IR. You had Shane Lemieux going to the IR. And Rodarius Williams going to the IR. So they do have to miss a minimum of 4 games going into the season. So hopefully they get healthy and get back, because all 3 of those players could be a huge boost. We'll talk about Lemieux and the left guard position a little bit later in the show. But when you think about it, this is the 53, and I have to say there's some concerns out there from Giants fans. This is what it was going to be, and this is what mostly everybody knew it was going to be. This was a full rebuild year. This was a tear it down, tear it apart. The previous GM did a terrible job at assembling this team. Really didn't have a lot of direction. Just kind of threw stuff at the wall and seen if it would stick, and knew his job was in jeopardy, and wanted to throw some money around and make some splash signings. Unfortunately, when that happens, you have no money. You have no cap space. You can't conduct yourself how you want to. You can't make the moves you want to. So, this is reality. And the team could very well win only 4 or 5 games. It's possible. They do have a soft schedule, but this is the reality of the NFL. When you overspend in the NFL, when you make poor decisions in the NFL, when you have no clear direction in the NFL, when you're trying to play a game that was played 20 years ago or ground and pound in today's NFL, this is what you get left with. And, bothers me a little bit. Because when you see some other teams and the way they're ran and how efficient they are, I hate to say it, when you look at a team like the Eagles, always seem to be making the right moves in the front office. And Dave Gettleman really handicapped the New York Giants this season. A lot of issues there, and Joe Shane basically alluded it to this week, and he's like, this is it. This is what we have to work with, and this is what we're going to work with. So no surprises. It doesn't make it any easier. Doesn't make it any better. And I'm sure watching the games this year, I'm sure there'll be some tough games against some good opponents. But this is it. This is, hey, we're not kicking the can down the road. We're not making any crazy trades. We're not doing any of that. And that's how Joe Shane is basically conducting himself. So that's the 53-man. Obviously minus Blake Martinez now, as he was cut. I like some of the new players on there. I like some of the additions. I'm excited for some of the young blood out there. We're going to play a lot of young kids this season. The Giants really set themselves up to have young starters in the secondary, linebacker, defensive line. It's going to be across the board, but it's exciting because at least for Giants fans, they know the rebuild is officially underway. It's not a partial rebuild like it's been. It's not a staggered rebuild like it's been. This is an official blow-it-up rebuild. Like I said, not kicking the can down the road, not trying to appease the fans in the interim. This is what it is. This is what it's going to be. Like it or not, this is how a rebuild starts. We'll see. We'll see once the season starts. But that's kind of a recap of where the Giants are at right now. I did want to start the mailbag. First, before I start the mailbag, I have to say thank you to everyone that's tuned into the show so far. Thank you to everybody that showed support, comments. Thank you to everyone that shows love on Twitter. Obviously, it means the world to me and to Giants country. I really couldn't be more thankful. I'm going to do a lot more of these mailbags. We're going to do some exciting stuff as the season goes along. This is a pure Giants football channel here. You're going to get clear, concise, cut takes, no fluff. You're not going to get any of that from me. I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm going to give it to you raw, what you need to hear. And, hopefully you're there and you're listening because so far, it's been really fun to tape and to get the stuff out there and to see the love out there. So thank you. All right, we'll start with the first question. This comes from G68 Charlie, a follower of mine on Twitter. And his question is, who hasn't bought into the system? My answer to that is simple. I would say nobody. And if somebody didn't buy into the system, they're probably not on the 53-man, and you definitely probably wouldn't have heard about it. So that's a pretty easy answer there, Charlie. You're not going to usually hear a guy come out and say, I don't buy into a system or I don't want to play on this team. So, if they did, they're not on the team anymore. Let's put it that way. Second part of his question is, what will it take for Jones to get a second contract? This is a tough question. This is a question that's been thrown around a lot, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. I think it's going to take a lot. I think Jones has a very short leash here, and I've been very vocal in support of Daniel Jones. I think he's had a really tough time in New York. I think he's had very little support. Giants have ranked in the bottom of offensive line, run production, receivers, held consistency, whatever you want to call it. Giants have ranked in the bottom of all those statistical categories for 3 years straight, which covers the tenure of Daniel Jones' career. But it's going to take a lot. You have a new regime. I'm sure they want their own guy. I'm sure they have a plan in place. They said all the right things about Daniel. For the most part, he's played well. A little bit of a rough start to camp, but really turned it on in the last couple preseason games. Looked good versus the Jets in the scrimmage. Shane gave him a lot of credit. So did Dayball. But it's going to take a lot. And I don't think it's going to be wins, losses. I think he's going to have to go out there and prove that he's a franchise quarterback. And it's hard to put a number on it and for me to say, hey, 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I think he has to show you certain things. He has to show you he can run the offense. He has to show you he can make decisions on the field himself and make the right decisions. I also want to see him make plays late in the fourth quarter. He's had a few chances in his career so far with the game on the line in the fourth quarter to make a winning play, to either tie or take the lead, and he just has not done it. One game that comes to mind is the Rams game from last season when the Giants are driving the ball on the 10-yard line of the Rams. Could tie it with a touchdown, 2-point conversion. Throws a nasty bad pick to the cornerback right on the right sideline. So, I want to see, and the Giants fans want to see, and I'm sure the front office wants to see him take that team down the field in a 2-minute drill in the fourth quarter and make something happen, because that's what great quarterbacks do. And statistically, the stats will have to be there. He's going to have to go over 30 touchdowns. He's going to have to keep total turnovers below 20, let's say. Let's give him a below 20. But I think it's more of those intangibles, the leadership, the clutch gene that you're going to want to see in order to get him that second contract. Okay, so next question is, who's on the Giants' radar? And Charlie's hitting us with a three-banger here, and Charlie's a big supporter, so I'm going to get his questions in here. Who's on the Giants' radar as far as quarterback for next season in college? I like Anthony Richardson. Big body kid, 6'4", 232, explosive athlete. He has a large, strong frame, has a lot of twitch, change of direction, super athletic, and is really unique in the fact that not only is he athletic, his arm matches his athleticism, and we don't see quarterbacks come around this often. So, he's just as talented of a thrower, high velocity, throws with ease, has zip, and has what I like to call arm elasticity. So he can throw off platform, he can throw fading away, he can make all the throws. So I think if the Giants do go for a quarterback in next year's draft, and they can't, they're not high enough to draft a Bryce Young or Stroud, I think they go Anthony Richardson. I think the talent is there. We'll see what he does this season for Florida. But boy, does he have all the intangibles. And I'm sure Joe Shane has already checked him out. I'm sure he's already looked into it, because he has it all. And, it should be interesting. So thank you, Charlie, for the questions. Next up, we got NYG Pride 26. Has Aaron Robinson done enough to secure the number 2 cornerback spot? I say no. Last year was tough for Robinson. I'm not going to make excuses. He was out for half the season, essentially. Other half of the season, he played the slot. So this is really his first full time playing on the outside. But he looked rough. Teams have attacked him. It seems like he has a pattern of getting beat off the line, playing catch up, not locating the ball. And with Darnay Holmes on the other side, teams are going to attack you. Robinson's going to have to prove early and often that he could be a good cornerback on the outside. If not, this could get ugly for him. Got ugly a couple times in the preseason. So I do think that the leash is short. But like many positions on this New York Giants team, there's not a lot of backup, not a lot of options. But I don't think he's done enough to secure it. But I think he will start there. I'm not going to say default because he has a ton of talent. But there weren't a lot of options. Let's just leave it at that. So thank you, NYG Pride 26, for the question. Appreciate it. Next one, we're going to go to Dave Denton, independent outsider. Actually a friend of mine. So Dave, thank you for the question. His question is, best value pickup so far this offseason. I'm going to go, again, Tony Jefferson. 61 starts, comfortable in Winks defense. We needed secondary help. Needed some vet help back there. I think he still has a lot left in the tank. I think he could help this football team. And like I said earlier, if he could just use his smarts and his veteran leadership, the Giants would be in good shape. So I thought that was the best pickup. Dave also asked, who was the toughest player to let go? I'm going to go with Bachman, honestly. I think that was a tough one. Only because, he showed he could catch the ball. He showed that, good hands, good route running, got in the end zone. So I thought that was a tough one. But Quincy Roche was a tough one as well. So thank you, Dave. Next question is an interesting one. Comes from Lana Rosales from Spain. And her question is essentially, are you happy with how the Giants have built this offseason? What do you think about the way they're building the team? Basically progress report. So I'll get into that. I think they've done everything they could. I think Joe Shane came here and was very excited to take the job. And then I think when he looked into the books, the financial books, he was like, holy cow. So I think they're doing what they can. They're not kicking a lot of money down the road. Didn't spend a lot of money and try to take from next year. Everything they've done seemed to fit in the scheme, whether it was taking players in the draft that the Giants fans didn't expect. They did it. Perfect case and example is Wan'Dale Robinson. A lot of people didn't expect him to go that early, but they did it. And they're sticking. They obviously have a clear, concise plan. They're following it through, which is nice to see. Something that was extremely frustrating with Dave Gettleman is that it always seemed that his plan would change and it would differ. And, we're rebuilding. Well, we're not rebuilding. Well, we still have Eli, and we're going to take the running back at number 2. Now we're rebuilding, but we're going to trade for Leonard Williams mid-season when he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season, and we're not making the playoffs anyways. That was a frustrating part, and that's what got the Giants in this predicament. So as far as laying the foundation, I think they've done a great job. As a Giants fan, you have to be excited where they're at and where they're taking this to. But until the games start, you don't really know, right? You're positive, you're excited, the new season's starting, all the right things are being said, all the players are happy, it's a great new scheme, yada, yada, yada. But you don't know until the bullets start flying. So great question from Spain, Lana Rosales. Thank you for the question. Thank you for tuning into Tommy's Takes. I've got a couple more questions here we'll go through quickly. This one is from Crypto Fariz, another loyal fan. Appreciate you. What do you think of bringing back JPP for a final season to retire as a Giant now that our depth is not looking great? On paper, I would be down for that. JPP was a great Giant. I don't think he should have ever left Big Blue. But financially, it really doesn't make sense right now. Giants are clearly in a dumping mode. They clearly don't want to pick up contracts. It stinks because JPP does still have some in the tank. So it would have been nice, but I don't see it happening. Okay, we're going to go to... Honest Giants fan. Most impactful rookie years from Giants players ranked. So this is a tough one because when you really think about it, Giants have already lost two rookies from the 2022 draft class for the season. They've lost McKeithen and they've lost Beavers. So really tough. So if I were to have to rank it, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try not to be generic and cheesy here and go top to bottom. I'm gonna go. I'm definitely gonna take Kayvon Thibodeau number one. I think he's gonna have a big season. I'm not worried about what he did in the preseason and a zero pressure rate. Not worried about that. It's the preseason. I think he's gonna be just fine. I think he has the best year out of all the rookies. Second, I'm going to go Wan'Dale Robinson. I think the Giants played it really vanilla with him this preseason. You really didn't see him do much. He did have the run last week, which was nice. Got a first down on it. But I think you're going to see a lot of Wan'Dale Robinson. I think they've been tucking him away. I think he has some stuff that they're going to unveil, we'll say. And I think he's going to have a big season. Next, I'm going to go Evan Neal. Evan Neal has had his struggles, no question. He's had some issues in pass blocking, had some issues with the balance, has some issues getting head over heels, so to speak. I think Bobby Johnson gets that fixed. I think he gets it squared away. Next up, I'll probably go Daniel Bellinger. Nice to see him change his number to number 82. Nice traditional tight end number. Had a really good game against the Jets until he got the concussion. Made a couple big catches, which was nice to see. I think he has a big season. Then I'm going to go Dane Belton. Hard-hitting safety. Obviously, he broke the collarbone earlier in the preseason. Looks like he's ready to come back any day now. I think he provides some real hard-hitting, stick-it-in-your-face type defense in the secondary. Let's say that. Next, I'm going to go Micah McFadden. Obviously, we talked about Blake Martinez being cut. Micah McFadden has a great opportunity here to take some reps. Made some plays in the preseason. Hard hitter, smart, can shoot the gap pretty quick. I think he has a big season. Like I said, unfortunately, Beavers, McKeithen hurt. I'll probably go Zudu hurt also. I'm going to leave him off now. DJ Davidson, he had some plays in the preseason, playing the defensive tackle spot. So that's my list. I do think it was a good draft class. It's unfortunate they're beat up. Two are out for the season. Azudu's hurt. Belton had the collarbone. Good thing he's coming back. But their draft class has taken a little bit of a beating so far. But thank you, Honest Giants fan. Great question. Okay, we're going to go to Joe Lamiano, another great follower, fan of the show. Appreciate you, Joe. Is Jimmy Garoppolo a better option than Tyrod Taylor? Absolutely not. Makes no sense. I've never understood the Jimmy G talk. I've never understood the trade talks for Jimmy G. He's not a bad quarterback. Obviously, he led the 49ers, deep in the playoffs. But he is what he is. He has a pretty low ceiling. You're going to trade assets for him. Yeah, you might get him on the cheap when you restructure the deal. But why? You might as well let Jones do his thing, and Tyrod Taylor backs it up. And that's it. And next season, if you want to move on from Jones, you move on. You didn't trade any capital away for Jimmy G. All right, we'll take a couple more here. This one is from Ryan Lucchini. Can the Giants be successful even with an unimpressive Kenny Golladay? It's a good question, and I think they can. I think they have some pieces they could work with, especially with Sterling Shepard getting back healthy. That's going to be important. Tony looking like he's going to be ready week one. That is critical. Tony is extremely dynamic. He's the most dynamic player on this football team. If Tony's healthy, if he could even give you 14, 15 games, you could easily slide by with an unimpressive Kenny Golladay. Throw in the guys at the bottom of the barrel, at the bottom of the roster. They can make plays too. Kenny Golladay, if he starts this season rough, this could get scary for him. He could see himself on the bench, early in the season. But to answer the question, yes, they can. They can be, they can do what they have to do on offense even without Kenny Golladay. Okay. This one comes from NYG Mason. It's a good question. Is DJ the guy? And I think that's going to be the last question for now because that's a deep one. So when assessing Daniel Jones, you look at a couple things, right? Tough start to the career. And what I mean by that is, being drafted number 6 overall from Duke. Haven't been a lot of great players to come from Duke. I think that especially in that draft, Giants fans wanted Josh Allen, the edge rusher. Thought that the Giants could have took Jones at 17. Giants took Jones at 6, grabbed a nose tackle, and Dexter Lawrence at 17. Started the whole thing off on a rough foot. Whatever. Jones' rookie season starts, slinging the ball around, ton of turnovers, but you see the potential. You see the deep ball. You see the athleticism. You see he could run. But Shermer's gone. Judge comes in. Garrett comes in. Jones basically looks like a completely different quarterback. Shell of his former self. Doesn't want to make mistakes. Easily just takes the check down. Missed some open guys mid, deep. And we come to find out this offseason that, he was essentially being screamed at for his mistakes, more than a normal quarterback would be. Joe Judge did not want the mistake. He wanted the close game. He wanted special teams to win the game. Put the reins on Jones and, basically lowered his ceiling and raised the floor. So I think it's really hard to say, is DJ the guy? I think this season we'll know, as fans, as, content creators, outsiders. After this season, you'll know if DJ is the guy. I think Daboll is going to unleash him. I think they're going to let him throw deep. But right now, really can't assess it. His rookie year was good. Terrible coaching his second and third year. Last year was myriad of injuries, including himself. So really hard. It's really like a question mark. It's really an incomplete. So thanks for the question, Mace. That's it for the question and mailbag portion. I hope you guys had fun. I had a blast. Thank you again for the support. Appreciate you tuning in to Tommy's Takes. Again, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We are just getting this thing started. Peace.